You've said that's your goal for the Chinese economy. It's not entirely clear that that's the Chinese government's goal for the Chinese economy. To what degree do you get the sense that they embrace that argument at all?
Again, we'll see. It may take some external forces. I remember, I think I went to Japan the first time in 1990. Maybe the bubble burst in 1991. They didn't fix the banking problem until 2004. Then Abenomics wasn't until 2012. And that was really an external stimulus. A lot of that was from the China threat. So, it may take some external stimulus or an external catalyst to get the Chinese to change. It may be more tariffs.
One of the big questions about that EU deal from the weekend is this $600 billion piece for additional purchases from the United States. But EU officials have come out since the deal was agreed to and said, well, that's coming from private sector companies. We don't really have any control over that, so we can't enforce it on our end. Does the U.S. have any guarantee that that $600 billion is real and is actually going to happen?
Well, I think that's going to be closely monitored. I think President Trump believes that this is a good deal. I mean, on paper, this is the deal of the century. And I would be surprised over time if the EU doesn't hold up their end of the bargain, or the 15% tariff rate could change.
What do you think those purchases will be? I mean, that could impact, hugely some American companies.
Well, it could be purchases. Problem now is Europe is rearming. NATO is finally upping its defense spending. We have a very large backlog with our defense companies. So, I would imagine a big portion of that could be for defense. There are going to be some ag purchases, and then they'll also be building, increased investment in European companies putting plants in the U.S.
These deals have been coming pretty fast and furious. At times, it gets hard to track the details of them. The Vietnam deal that the president announced earlier in July, I don't think we've seen confirmation, or at least I haven't, as I sit here now, from the Vietnamese government of that deal. Did we get confirmation from the Vietnamese government? Do we have an agreement with them on paper?
I didn't work on that deal, but I assume that we do, because we've also done Indonesia and Philippines, so I would imagine that.
But you haven't seen that paperwork?
That's Ambassador Greer, who is a seasoned veteran with an encyclopedic memory and knowledge of all this, keeps all that.
How do you divide it in the room between yourself and Ambassador Greer as you are negotiating with the Chinese? Do you have a lane? Does he have a lane?
I think I try to keep things moving along in a big picture way and think about what are our goals. Ambassador Greer, again, like I said, he not only has an encyclopedic knowledge, he has dealt with the Chinese in President Trump's first term. He knows all the particulars on tariffs, on trade, on he walks around. It's a great prop. It's probably 2 times, 3 times bigger than the old New York City phone book, but it's the non-tariff trade barriers of all the countries. So you can put that down on the table and say, okay, let's go through them.
Right. Friday, we've got another big deadline coming up, which is August 1st for snapback tariffs on all the other countries that have not agreed to a deal so far. What can you tell American businesses to expect on Friday?
Well, I would think that it's not the end of the world if these snapback tariffs are on for anywhere from a few days to a few weeks, as long as the countries are moving forward and trying to negotiate in good faith.